Yes, yes, y'all, we are back now. Jeff is stepping out of this segment, and so that means our good friend and cohort, a man who needs no introduction unless you've never seen the show before, and then he needs an introduction because you'll have no idea who in the hell this guy is. Although he works at Lifetime Fitness, he's Zach Miller. Zach Miller, we want to give you all the credit, dude. You're a great fantasy mind. That's why we have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
You know me so well, so much so that it's Anytime Fitness, not Lifetime Fitness.
I'm sorry, man. Well, you're welcome on our show anytime, and you're on the show almost every single week. You also do work for us on the website. Tell the people at home what they see featured of you on our website every single week, testosteronesports.com.
Well, I am the author for The Aftermath. I didn't write it this week, so I did write an apology. I had so much going on at work and at home. But on a week in and week out basis, The Aftermath is mine, as well as the Power Rankings. The Power Rankings on the homepage, as well as The Aftermath, and those are my two main articles that I throw up there. Yeah,
so you at home, jump online, testosteronesports.com, read all of Zach's stuff, read the breaking news going on out there in Fantasyland. Everything on the site is free, and after the show is over, as always, we host a live fantasy football chat at testosteronesports.com. It's called the Fat Chat. We want to help you with all of your matchup-related questions, all of your lineup questions. I'll be on there, as well as Zach and Jeff, breaking it down for you, the fantasy junkies. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, it's great. I love getting on there, getting a bunch of guys that we've never really personally seen, but we know them through the website, and just talk football. I mean, it's a great time to get on there. So.
Now, Zach touched on his power rankings. The team that has been atop his power rankings for some time now has been the Tennessee Titans. Mm-hmm. He was on their tip early, and they just continue to win. So we'll hop into that matchup here, Zach. The New York Jets will be traveling to Tennessee to face the Titans, who are now 10-0. They take it week by week. They never overlook this week's opponent, and they just keep winning.
And exactly. And you go back to last week's game, they were down 14-3 at halftime, and you thought, hey, maybe this is the game. Jacksonville's at home.
Right.
They're up a touchdown. I mean, they're up 2 scores going to the second half, and the team that made the best adjustments was Tennessee, and that just shows you why they're undefeated. They're 10-0. Fisher had them in the halftime, made the right adjustments, came out. They scored in the very opening drive of the second half. They scored in their second drive of the second half, took the lead, and never looked back. And that just proves that they're a team that has resilience. They're a team that can come back from being down. They're a team that can hold off opponents when they're up.
Right.
There's a strong team, great running team. And even the last couple of weeks, Kerry Collins has proven that they can throw the ball, not necessarily just be a running team. So they have all the tools that it takes to be a.
The Jets are a really tough team up front defensively. I mean, they've got a great D-line. They're, I believe, ranked 3rd or 4th in the league against the run. And that's a tough matchup for Tennessee. Although the Titans are at home, they're a team that likes to run the ball. How do you think Lindell White and Chris Johnson will fare against that Jets front that can really shut down the run?
Well, you tell me about it. Chris Jenkins is playing, I mean, absolutely phenomenal football right now. And he's a top 1-2 guy for Defensive Player of the Year. But if you look at the last few games, Chris Johnson and Lindell White really haven't done a whole lot. And 2 weeks ago, they got absolutely shut down by Chicago, and they still won that game. And like I said, Kerry Collins is really getting that pass game going, and he's really hooking up with Justin Gage right now. Justin Gage,
2 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, he's had a couple really good weeks in a row, and they're proving that they can throw the ball if need be.
Right.
I mean, granted, they want to be a running team. They want to pound the ball with Lindell and Chris Johnson, but it's not necessarily the only way that they can score points and hold off defenses. So
should fantasy owners be starting Johnson and White, or just Johnson this week?
You know, that could be tricky. I mean, you'd want to say Johnson, but at the same time, you're thinking, well, he gets the majority of the carries in between the 20s, and they're not going to be able to run for a whole lot of big yards, especially with Chris Jenkins in there. And I think they're going to throw a lot more because the Jets' secondary has been real suspect.
Very bad.
And they got absolutely torched last week by Matt Castle, of all people.
Yes.
So Lindell White might even be the better play because if they get down inside that 5-yard line, he's going to get the carries until he gets in the end zone. So
now on the flip side, for the Jets' offense going against Tennessee's D, Tennessee's D is of the shutdown ilk. They got Albert Haynesworth inside. He's a beast. He's also has to be in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year, wreaking tons of havoc. I think they will be able to force Brett Favre into making some mistakes. You know, which Jets players here can be started against a formidable defense?
I wouldn't recommend any outside of maybe Brett Favre. They're not going to be able to run. Thomas Jones, I know he's been hot as of late, but he could be a really tough start, like you said, because, I mean, Albert Haynesworth, you ain't going to run up the middle on him, and Thomas Jones does not have the speed to get to the outside.
Right.
I mean, I think Leon Washington could have more big plays in this game than Thomas Jones. And like I said, Brett Favre, maybe if you don't have any other better quarterback options, because they are going to have to throw, but he is going to make some mistakes. So if you do play in a league where they penalize for turnovers, maybe not a good play there either.
Right.
He might throw for a good chunk of yards, but he's probably going to have at least 1 or 2 interceptions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's going to make some bad plays just because that's the way he is.
Washington at Seattle, the next one we're going to talk about here, Zach. The Redskins, a team that started out the beginning of the season really hot, getting some fantastic play from Clinton Portis. He's a little bit dinged right now, and they've kind of fallen back to the pack a little bit here. But they get Seattle, a team that has really struggled since the beginning of the season. Obviously, we're going to pick Washington in all likelihood to win this game. Navigate the fantasy matchups. Tell the people at home which players should be in the fold for their fantasy play.
Well, for the Redskins, you can definitely look at starting Clinton Portis. I know he didn't practice today, but Jim Zorn said he's going to practice tomorrow. He's going to be good to go. He played. They said limited last week, but he did play a significant amount. He actually had like 16 carries. Ran very well last week, and he's playing against a very soft Seattle defense who's now without Patrick Kearney for the rest of the year, and they've just been awful all year long.
Right.
I know Matt Hasselbeck's back, but it's only his second game back. He's not really up to full speed yet. His receivers are, I don't know who his receivers are at this point.
Right.
It seems like every week they have 2 or 3 new ones in there. So you definitely can roll with Clinton Portis. If you need a quarterback, Jason Campbell maybe. Santana Moss could have a really big game. A lot of receivers have been putting up 100 yards on Seattle's defense. Their secondary is pretty weak this year. So I'd say your best bets in this game are going to be Clinton Portis and Santana Moss, and maybe even the Washington Redskins defense. I know they haven't put up a whole lot of big points in the year, but they can get you a decent amount of points this week, I believe. I know Matt Hasselbeck's rusty.
Right.
So if you need a defense, you can definitely roll with Washington defense. So.
The San Francisco 49ers have to travel to Dallas to square off with the Tony Romo-led Cowboys. Now the Cowboys got the Cowboys got a win last week, a win that really kind of stopped the bleeding. Although Romo did not look great in the game, still playing
First
with
game
that.
back, though,
yeah,
so we'll
playing with that splint on his finger. But here's the balm that heals all wounds. He's playing at home now, and the 49ers are not that great on defense. I'm reading the tea leaves a little bit here, Zach, but I think Dallas is going to play really good in this game, personally.
Yes, and like you said, Tony Romo, I know he had a little bit of a rough game last week. He was just getting back in the flow of things. I mean, he played all right. And they won the game. So, and he can totally
at Washington.
And then now he's going to play San Francisco at home, a team that hasn't been playing real well all year. And I expect Tony Romo and the whole Dallas offense to really thrive in this game and put up some big points. And I expect Terrell Owens to have a big game. I mean, he's been very average all season long. He's been without Romo for 4 or 5 weeks. He finally got him back last week. They threw to him quite a bit. He didn't catch a lot of balls, but he is playing the Niners. It's his former team, so if there's a game to get up for, this will be one of those games for Terrell Owens to have a big game. So
yeah, I concur. Marion Barber going to be a beast in this one as well. You want to bench all of your 49ers outside of Frank Gore.
Yeah.
Dallas's D can be beaten on the ground, but as far as the Niners passing game goes, it's too dicey there to ever really rely on any of those players on a regular basis. And I really think Dallas, now that Terrence Newman is back, and they've got DeMarcus Ware putting a tremendous pressure on the quarterback from the outside. I think Dallas might be one of those teams that's hot down the stretch here. So start your Cowboys, bench all of your Niners outside of Gore, and watch the Cowboys roll here at home, in my opinion. Oakland at Denver. We've got an NFC or an AFC West division clash here. The Raiders haven't really ever found their footing this season, but the Broncos are sitting atop the standings in the West. All they have to do is just keep winning, and they're going to lock this division up.
Oh yeah, and they hit a little bit of a rocky slope in the middle of the season. First year, Jay Cutler's the second year starting. Brandon Marshall was back healthy, but he had some, he wasn't playing really well in the middle of the season. They had some tough matchups, but now they've been playing real well the last couple of weeks. They picked up a couple really big wins. And when you look at that division, the only other team that you thought was going to battle with them for this division was San Diego, and they've completely fallen off the map. So this division is all up for grabs for Denver. All they have to do is win some games, and I fully expect them to win this division.
Yeah, I agree totally. In this matchup, I want to warn fantasy owners out there about Brandon Marshall in this game. This is a very, very difficult matchup for Brandon Marshall. He's going against one of the best corners in the league in Nnamdi Asomugha. A couple weeks back, Asomugha held Steve Smith to 1 catch for 9 yards. And now that the Raiders have dumped D'Angelo Hall, The cornerback starting opposite of Asamoah is definitely ceding some yardage. So this is a great play here for Eddie Royal. I think Royal is a guy you can sneak into your lineup. He could pop for that one big play of maybe 60, 70, 80 yards, which is kind of his thing to do. And Brandon Marshall owners, be warned, this is a very tough matchup here. Asamoah playing at a high level. And Denver, as far as their running game goes, geez, I mean, can you really start Patrick Hillis? I mean, 2 touchdowns last week, Zach, but God, can you trust that?
Peyton Hillis, by the way, but
Peyton, Patrick.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. It could be tricky, but you could play him as a solid number 3 because they are playing the Oakland run D, which hasn't really been that good at all this year. So Peyton Hillis, not only that, he's going to get the goal line carries, and their offense is going to be able to move the ball up and down the field, and they're going to get in the red zone. So once they get down inside the 5-yard line, they're going to be giving them the ball. So maybe as a number 3, I wouldn't expect any more of that from him. Maybe 50, 60 yards and a touchdown. But he is a pretty good receiver in the backfield, but they didn't use him much in that situation last week. But another play in this game, Tony Shelfer. I know they didn't catch any balls last week, but like you said, Brandon Marshall's going to be pretty much locked down this game, and they're going to have Eddie Royal to throw to, and I think Tony Shelfer will be able to get some big chunks of yards down the middle of the field in this game.
I agree,
He's
too.
going to be single covered on the linebackers.
Watch for Darren McFadden to maybe make a big play or 2 here. They're talking about giving him the ball more down the stretch. Now his toe is a little bit more healthy. Denver's run D still pretty suspect there without their best linebacker. DJ Williams going to be out again for this game, maybe coming back next week. But Oakland's going to get steamrolled here, so you probably want to reserve those guys in the running game despite the good matchup. The final matchup of my segment here with Zach is a huge divisional matchup in the NFC. Carolina in the lead in their division, but traveling to Atlanta where the Falcons have really made some noise. God, Zach, this is going to be a fantastic game to watch. I really want to see this game on Sunday.
Should be a great game, and especially the resurgence of the Atlanta Falcons and the rookie quarterback Matt Ryan, who's been playing, not at all like a rookie. I mean, he's been playing like he's been in the league for 5 years. And the fact that they need to win this game to stay in the hunt with the division. I mean, this is a very key game for Atlanta Falcons. If they don't win this game, they're going to be looking at a wild card at best. If they win this game, they still have a shot at that division. I think it's going to be quite a battle in Atlanta.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that's really interesting to see is how Carolina has kind of transformed back to the type of offense they ran when they made their Super Bowl run 4 or 5 years ago. It's a run-first team. We saw last week D'Angelo Williams and the rookie Jonathan Stewart both going over 100 yards, both scoring touchdowns. Those 2 guys are both playable here against Atlanta, but the real question is, will Steve Smith get the ball? Will he get involved? Jake Delhomme has looked pretty crappy these last couple weeks, really not playing at a very high level. What do you expect from Carolina's passing game here, Zach?
Well, it's kind of tricky because last week they didn't need their passing game at all. I mean, they were running at will, and John Fox, he's the kind of coach, well, if he's running the ball, he's not even going to try and pass because he doesn't need to, especially last week. I know a couple weeks ago they had a tough matchup. I can't remember who they were playing. Oakland, yeah. And I don't even think he completed a pass in the second half of that game. 9 completions on the whole game. He was like 9 of 27. So he hasn't. It's 2 weeks in a row where he hasn't gone over 100 yards passing. But in this game, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a. They're going to have to be a little more balanced in this game, I believe, to put up some more points and to win the game. I mean, it's not. You can't say Atlanta's defense is quite like Detroit. Not only that, Atlanta's going to be putting up points. So I'm expecting Delhomme to break through and finally have at least a mediocre game.
And on the Falcons side, you can start the big 3 here in Matt Ryan. And yes, I did call him a big 3. They're starting to emerge. Matt Ryan is a guy you can play now on a weekly basis, as is Roddy White. And, of course, Michael Turner, a guy you got to keep in your lineup. So a fun team to watch and a fun show to watch. If you're just tuning in, just turning on, we welcome you. Testosterone Sports is in the house. We've got 1 segment left. We want to briefly mention the website at testosteronesports.com. Don't forget to jump on there, testosteronesports.com, at the end of the show for the Fat Chat. Zach, Jeff, and I will be on there. And for this next segment here, Zach, Jeff, and I will be on as well to close the show down, coming up right after this. Bye.